Hey everybody, welcome back to Birds of a Feather. Like the trees behind me, there's birds in the trees. I don't know, but we're back and it's making stupid jokes like always. Um, 30-minute timer. I'm about to set it, so here we go. And Dustin, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Good, man. I'm tired. I drove to Houston yesterday morning and I got asked to speak at a business thing for overcoming limiting beliefs. So I did that and hung out until about 7 and then turned around and drove back last night. So
Oh wow, dude,
yeah,
you tired? Holy
yeah, man. I'm tired.
dang, dude. Wow. Well, I just got off
Yeah,
work. I had a late day today. We had a snow last night and everything froze. So that makes for delivering quite a bit more complicated. So you're not like running into mailboxes and trees and stuff. But here we are. We made it.
yeah. Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So I'm excited to talk to you today. I've been reading with Ray this book called Mind Power into the 21st Century. Have you heard of that?
No.
By John Cahill. Um, it's fantastic. Like it's really really good. It's all about how to utilize energy and empower it and in your life just
Mind
by
power, I see it into the 21st century.
yeah yeah. So it's something Ray has kind of almost mastered herself and uh, for over the years. He's just really good at this stuff in general. So we're reading this book together, and I'm kind of learning how to tap into that more. And he's just got a lot of really cool things to say. You know, just how to speak to your inner self, you know, your subconscious, because your subconscious is more powerful than we think. And so the subconscious just basically encapsulates what our conscious produces. And so, you know, he starts with talking about, you know, if your subconscious is very powerful, and if you're going to tap into that and utilize it, you got to alter what it thinks and what it wants to do, because otherwise it's going to carry negative thoughts always if you are always putting negative thoughts into it. So just as it's just when he writes, when I'm reading it, it almost sounds so logical, like so simple, like duh, why didn't I think of this? It's like so normal, like thinking positive thoughts, making sure that you're always speaking positivity into the universe. Just even thinking in terms of how you do that, not using negative terms, and it's challenging to do, um, but you know every thought matters, you know, and even in the biblical worldview that we used to have, you know, take every thought captive, you know. Um, so so you know I'm seeing these parallels and I'm thinking, wow, this is interesting because we've been talking about prayer, and I can't remember if that was the last episode or the episode before, but we were talking about prayer and how people can utilize prayer to benefit themselves. And we know from studies that prayer doesn't actually do anything for anybody else when you pray for them, but it does for you, and it makes your life better. And that's probably for the same reason John Cahill is talking about in his book. And interestingly, I don't know yet if John Cahill is a Christian. I haven't even looked it up, uh, but he does parallel prayer to this, but he doesn't seem to speak very highly of the Christian version of prayer. But he does talk about how energy is, you know, functioning in some capacity the same way. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because that's a book I'm reading and I'm finding it very fascinating. And coming out of the Christian world where we always, you know, talk to inner self, so to speak. We used to call it God, but now it's more palatable and more plausible, and it makes more sense, in my opinion. But anyway, so I throw that at you.
Yeah, I just bought it. Um,
There you go. Cool.
Yeah. So, and it looks like he is a Christian. He's a pastor of a church. He graduated Norwich University, Army officer, theological degrees from Pensacola Bible, New York Christian Bible College, Covington Theological. So he's probably got some reformed thinking, fervent Bible believer, teacher of doctrine, dedicated to God's flock since 1987. I mean, if that's the same guy, I'd have to look, but
I'm sure it is. I mean, I only
Um,
say host
yeah,
of.
but look, man, it's what you're talking about. That's really interesting because, man, I could literally show you about 17 different books right here. That's all I've been studying for 2 years. Look, this is the one I just got.
The
The
biology of
bio,
belief. Yeah,
yeah, the biology of belief.
same same stuff. Yeah.
I just got that one. This one, dying to live. Um,
Okay.
This one, Dying to Live by David Parrish, is the same thing. And I just read one, I just finished one called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Um, and it's, man, what something you said about the negative thoughts is really powerful because I, since I have been studying this stuff, I have found myself saying things in jest, real cavalierly,
Hmm.
and not intentionally meaning anything, and yet understanding the power of what I'm saying when I say things like, if I make a mistake, oh, I'm so stupid, or you know, something happens and I go, oh man, I can never do anything right. Ha 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 ha.
Dude, it's so interesting you say that because like Ray hates when I do that or when the kids do that. And for the longest time, I pushed back and even maybe still do a little bit because I'm still letting all this sink in and digest. But yeah, like I was, oh, it's just a joke. We're just kidding. But words have power, and she's right, and so she's trying to correct that, and I find that really helpful, and I like it because I'm learning.
Yeah, it's not, there is no such thing as a benign statement. It stems from some neural pathway in our thinking. And the subconscious mind is the most powerful thing. If we feed it something, it will do everything to bring that something to fruition.
Yes.
And so it is very important that whatever I am feeding it is something that I want manifested in my life. That book that I just got through reading, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, and Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this. I don't know if you've ever read any of Joe Dispenza's stuff.
Uh,
Man, you would really, really like him. Um, Joe Dispenza is really well known, but he's got some really good stuff out there. I listen to his podcast too. But that book that I was reading, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, talks about imprinting on our subconscious minds when we're going to sleep,
yes. Yeah.
because that is one of the most influential times. And so every night, man, for the last like 6 months, I have done this same thing every night where I don't start dreaming about something or I don't start thinking back over my day. I don't do any of that. I start talking to myself. I start talking to my subconscious mind now, and I say things like the talk that I had yesterday. I have been telling myself for the last month and a half, your talk is going to be so powerful. That talk is going to move people. That talk is going to be life changing for someone in that room. That talk is going, and man, and I just tell myself that stuff until I literally will fall asleep talking to myself.
That's really cool. It's very similar to when I used to pray until I fell asleep.
Yep.
Same principle. And I'm sorry I'm looking down. I've been trying to find this one quote that he said in the book because it was just so amazing. But I'm listening while you're talking. I just can't seem to find it.
Yeah, and I will tell you, um, it's interesting, man. I had a lot of thoughts when I drove off from that talk I did yesterday. There was about 100 people there, and I have no idea what their faith backgrounds are. I don't know anything about that. And I was very, very open. I began the talk by giving a little bit of my history about being molested at 6 and physically abused and neglected and homeless and eating out of dumpsters, and I gave, and the whole room just was like, holy crap. But I prefaced my talk with that because I told them, I said, now in light of everything I just told you, what do you guys think my belief system was going into the professional work world? I was broken. I was incapable. I was unworthy. I was this. I was that. My belief system was nothing but limits. There was no way anything good was going to happen to me. Everything bad always happened. The shoe would always drop. And overcoming those limiting beliefs was not something that happened in an instant. It has been incremental over time as I began to believe and then saw the fruits of that belief. And then those fruits helped me believe a little bit more. And the belief constantly does this. And over the last year and a half, 2 years, that has mushroomed mainly, man, honestly, mainly because of getting out of religion. There was always these confines of, well, if it's God's will, should you even be praying for that? Is that a selfish prayer? Um, well, you probably should be giving this away and not accumulating it. Well, what if that isn't right for you? You have no idea what's good for you. Your heart is wicked. You can't trust it. You can't trust your own thinking. I mean, man, I never knew what I should believe or what I shouldn't believe in terms of that stuff. Really. I mean, I didn't. And prayer was me kind of, well, who knows? I'm just going to put it out there and I don't know what's going to happen because, yes, no, or maybe, because that's how God answers things, right? Since I have come out of that and begun to study this kind of stuff that I'm reading now I know there are no limits. There's literally no limits to what I can do or manifest or make happen. None. The only limiting belief is that limit that I believe. That's it. And if I can make that limiting belief go away, I jump up another step. And undoing indoctrination has been so freeing in that regard.
Mm. Wow, that's really powerful. Yeah, I like that. And I want to I want to continue to grow in that way too, because I, it's incredible. So the indoctrination you're talking about is a significant player in our limiting of ourselves because
Yep.
um, you in the Christian world, and I know, and this is going to frustrate me to say it yet again. I know there's Christians going to listen and be like, "Oh, it's just another straw man." Look, this is not a straw man. This is the reality of what Scripture teaches. You just may not like what the Bible teaches, so you may have your own view. And if that's the case, I don't know what to call you. You can call yourself a Christian, but it's like at some point, if you read the Bible and you pay attention to what it says, it teaches that we are worthless sinners, worthy of nothing at all. We're worms. We're like menstrual rags. There's like nothing good. There's no, not one. Like we are literally the epitome. We're like worse than algae. Like we're just nothing at all. And you beat that down to your inner core until you realize how desperately you need a savior. And then you're just like, oh, Jesus. And now you become addicted to Jesus because without him, you will never feel any worth at all because he is your only worth. So I know there's Christians that can't stand when I say that because I talked to one not too long and I said, you believe you're just nothing but a sinner saved by grace? Well, no, I'm actually okay. I would have been fine. Like seriously, I don't know what Christianity your version is because that's not a straw man. This is the absolute teaching of the Bible. Anyway,
It's in every confession and creed.
it is. Anyway, so to my point though, if you can get past that straw man, because I'm seeing it even more. You're just taking cheap, like people have told me, I had a friend recently tell me I'm just taking cheap shots at Christianity when I'm making these posts on my Facebook wall, and I'm like, they're not cheap shots. I'm strictly stating what Christians believe. Like, how is that a cheap shot? And if you don't like it, it's just because you have seen something you don't like a long time ago and you managed to fix it with a doctrine. But that doesn't mean it isn't something that a lot of Christians believe and that even you believed and that got you brainwashed in the first place. Like that's how you got in. So yeah, I get so frustrated with that whole with the whole straw man and cheap shot thing because it's not what I'm doing. I'm
Nope.
trying to get Christians to read what they believe so that it awakens them to say, "Holy shit, I actually believe that." But instead, they just don't want to just no 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 no, and they just put it back. But anyway, back to my point because I'm now just on a rant of frustration. But um, now I got to remember what my point was. No, I remember. I'm just kidding. So anyway, when you live in that doctrine and you are nothing at all, you have no you have nothing to aim for when you lose Jesus. Your limit, as you were talking about, is 100%. And so to bring that limit down, For me, it took an immense amount of therapy to even drop at a level, because you literally think you can accomplish nothing. So, what right do I have as a nobody, a worthless worm, deserving of nothing but eternal death? What do I have? What worth do I have to be able to speak to energy and manipulate it and then do something good for my life? I don't have any of that.
Well, not only that, he is the vine, you are the branches. Apart from him, you can do nothing.
Nothing. Right.
So not only are you completely worthless, but even once you get saved, you still can't do anything.
No.
The
It's all there.
only way you can do it is by the power of the Holy Spirit. And who knows how that works? Because absolutely no one has an answer for it. Because people say, I feel led all the time. And then that falls through and they go, oh, well, that must have been me and not the Lord. Okay. That's convenient. And so you're right, man. It's that is what I had to undo for it took me a good 3 years. It really did. And therapy as well, which I call life coaching. I don't like therapy. I call it life coaching. Um, it took me 3 years to undo that thinking that I was completely worthless and I was incapable. Um, I'll tell you something really interesting because you mentioned a minute ago about the inefficacy of prayer. And I have a different opinion on that I am formulating because I do believe that our speaking things into the universe has an impact on other people, and can influence thinking as well. Let me give you a couple of examples. So, my buddy Raphael and I, who you'll meet at the first roundtable,
I
um,
think I met him, didn't I, when I was in
I'm sure you did.
and
When you came to San Antonio, I'm sure you did.
I think I did, yeah.
He's their family. I mean, they're not even friends, they're family. And and Raphael and I, we have been on this journey together. We meet every single Saturday and we talk about all sorts of stuff. And so we've done a couple of experiments one time. One Saturday he came and he said, I'm going to think of an image. He said, I want you to know this right now. I'm thinking of an image and I am going to try to send that image to you while we're talking. And at the end of our time together, I want you to tell me what that image is that you have. And I was like, okay. And so we were talking, and I actually forgot about this experiment in the course of our conversation because we got so wrapped up in the conversation. But the entire time we were talking, I got this picture of a circle in my head. And then as we were talking, the circle got filled in red. I saw a red circle. And then I got a picture of a balloon. That's what I got a picture of. So after about an hour, we met for about an hour. We were about to leave, and he said, do you have that image in your head? And I said, I have a red balloon. That was the image he was thinking of, was a red balloon. Another time, I tried the experiment, and I have these pencils. They're my favorite pencils in the whole world that
Hmm.
I write in all my books. And so we met and I was like, all right, let's try the experiment the opposite way. Now I'm going to think of an image and I want you at the end of our conversation. Dude, he literally picked out my pencil. So because I believe I am starting to understand or believe the concept of us being made of energy, us being surrounded by energy. All of this is matter on a quantum level, which means we are inextricably a part of the energy around us. There's really no separation. We're just a different manifestation of that energy. I believe we can tap into that energy field and send information to another person through that energy field.
Sure. I think everything you said makes a lot of sense. And in fact, that has been demonstrated through mentalists. They do it all the time. Uh,
Yeah.
Mark Chiachira, for example, he's a mentalist. He could do that anytime he wants to. He'll get a whole crowd to, say exactly what he's thinking. So the power of words, the power of language, as you're talking, as you're touching things, you can definitely send images, um, and that's great. Um, I d- uh, I don't think you can do that strictly through prayer unless in prayer you are using certain vocabulary and certain things to intend to send the message.
I agree.
So what you're talking about is great, and it's manipulating and using energy, and I think it's and I totally agree with that. But I don't think it's the same thing as praying to a God. Uh,
No, 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 no. Yeah,
far
I
more,
don't either.
it's far more intentional. This is far more intentional than
Yeah. Well, and it is me employing the faculties that I have to do something rather than whimsically putting that out and hoping that a being somewhere does what I'm hoping it will do.
correct. So what I was talking about earlier with prayer and why I don't think it has impact on other people is based on a study. I don't know if you know about this. I think I may have mentioned it in passing, but
Yeah, you did.
I just added it to my book, so I have the stats fresh in my mind. So the way it was done, it was published in the American Heart Journal back in I think it was 2006, if I remember correctly. Now, I'm terrible with numbers, but anyway, so there was three. They broke 1,800 people, 1,800 some people that had just finished heart surgery and were going into recovery for heart surgery. And so they had Christians come in and pray for um, for these 1,800 people, and they divided the 1,800 into three test groups. The first group was people who weren't being prayed for. The second group were people who were being prayed for but didn't know they were being prayed for. And the third group was people who were being prayed for and knew they were being prayed for. At the end of the result of the 1,800 people in the different groups, the first group where they weren't being prayed for, and the second group where they were but didn't know they were being prayed for, the results were the same. They saw no significant change whatsoever between them. The group that was being prayed for and knew they were being prayed for, they had a decrease in health. It actually was worse for them than it would have been if they weren't being prayed for. So it just goes to show that when you think in terms of prayer, it has such a psychological effect on the mind because I think what's happening and what they concluded was it creates a stressor in the person being prayed for because
Yep.
I think they have to perform now because they have to come through for God, so to speak. Because I think deep down we know there's no God there doing anything, but
Yep.
we got to make him real, so we perform and then it stresses out and then we get worse.
Yep.
It was so so yeah, that's what I was kind of referring to it as is from the studies themselves. I can see that prayer doesn't actually do anything. Energy, on the other hand, I think we can manipulate it. I just don't personally know enough about it to be able to give strong enough advice. That's why I'm starting to learn about it. I'm reading about it and wanting to grow in it. But it's a new thing for me. And I will say, like, even though I went through what you like to call life coaching, went through my own therapy, um, and had to remove, so to speak, that negative speak about myself that I'm nothing, I'm a nobody. At the same time, now I'm starting to see that whole idea of replacement theology, and by that I don't mean the Israel replacement. I mean the put positive thoughts in your mind so that you don't think the sinful thoughts. You remember that? So I think in a way, if like first of all, I had to get through my depression because I was like, I didn't have a single positive thought about myself for like 3 years either. Kind of like you, like there was nothing about me that I could possibly say, oh yeah, I'm great. Like it was almost like taking me from negative 100, bringing me back to zero, and then I finally could be like, okay, I can start to think a positive thought, and then a positive thought, but you can replace that negative thinking with the positive thoughts if you're
Yep.
not depressed, but boy, that's tough when you're depressed, man. Whew, that's tough.
It is. It feels like and I struggle with despondency, but it's far less now. I have, because of these studies that I've had, I have tools now that I have learned to employ through words and meditation, contemplation that it brings me out of it pretty quickly. But it literally feels like a tsunami, and you are standing on the beach, and that wave starts to envelop you, and you are absolutely powerless against it. That's what depression feels like. And a lot of people don't understand it. And they go, oh, why don't you just go outside and take a walk or something? I'm like, what a dumbass thing to say. You know, I
Hey, you
mean,
can't even get yourself off the bed to go for a walk.
no, I mean, man, it is the most suffocating feeling, but I do believe it stems from thinking. That's what it
Oh,
stems from. And
oh, 100%.
and if you can
Absolutely.
undo that thinking and begin to replace that thinking with very powerful thoughts, man, it's an incredible journey. Um, man, with my boys, I am very intentional with my boys, about what I say to them, even when things are going wrong. I don't say you are something. You are so that I never do that, man. I will sit them down and say, why are you being this way right now?
Mm.
What's going on that is making you be this way right now? And I talk with them about that kind of stuff. Every day, man, I tell them things about themselves, that I admire or that I see, that I notice. When they do something, I'll point it out. I have a marker in their bathroom. They have two mirrors. They have a dual vanity thing. And every morning, dude, I write a word on their mirror about them. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, and intelligent, natural leader, powerful, resolved.
Bro, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and
Wait,
dude,
wait, wait. You're telling me you don't tell them they're worthless sinners worthy of nothing?
yeah, dude. And so every morning, and it's, dude, it's interesting. They draw little pictures next to those words.
Dude. Well, I'm loving these ideas. Well, thanks for sharing some of these father ideas. That's really cool.
Yeah, and
I,
it's,
I like the idea of not saying you are, but asking what is making you be like this.
yep.
That's wow. I'm gonna start applying that instantly, dude. That's really good.
Yeah, it's cool because then they get to they will start to work through it, and they'll say, "Well, this is making me feel this way." And I'll say, "Okay, well, so what is that making you believe about yourself? What are you thinking right now?" "Well, because it makes me feel like this." And I'll say, "Well, are you that?" "No." "Okay, then. So
Hmm.
this is just a feeling, and that's okay to feel that, but now let's move past it. It's done." And does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So I have a fascinating question for you. It's kind of rhetorical, but I want you to actually respond because it's interesting. So what do you think would happen, would have happened to us if we had been built up the way you're doing with your boys all of our lives? When did you become a Christian? What was your year? Your age?
25.
25. So let's say for the first 25 of your years of your life, you were built up so much and you were proud of yourself and you were the kind of man you wanted to be and you knew you had value and worth and honor and you were just like this dope dude and you knew how to tap into energy and this is the way you were raised, right? Let's just say that that was you. Do you think you think you would have been manipulated into believing that you need a savior?
Nope,
Huh.
I do not.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting, right?
I really believe that, people that join religions, I think there's two types of people. I think there are people, I see the time thing popping up. I think there are people who are in some form of a moral, psychological, or emotional crisis, and that construct offers them some comfort and community. I think there is another type of person who joins religion because they understand what they can do with it, because they are powerful people and they realize what they can wield through that.
Yep. No, that's true. Dude, this is a really enlightening thought that we're dealing with right now. I would love to discuss this further because holy smokes, like even me, like I was raised as a Christian. You became a Christian, which I love that difference because it allows us to investigate. the differences between why each of us became Christians. But for me, I was already raised needing Jesus. You already felt that emptiness and that you had the void, and it wasn't hard for someone to trick you into believing it. I would love to understand a little bit more about that void and what it looked like for you. Um, because for me, it was simple. I just never knew a life without God. So that mine's kind of boring. But there's our timer. So we're going to talk about that in the next episode. But before we do, is it okay to announce our upcoming show in 3 weeks
Yeah,
with our
yeah,
guest?
yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce the guest, man?
So the first roundtable, I can't remember the date. What was it?
You start introducing the guests, and I will give you the date.
Okay. So we are going to have my buddy Rafael Goico on. Rafael is a brilliant, brilliant thinker. Um, was involved. He'll probably tell a little bit of his story, but he was raised Catholic and then moved into Protestantism and was very heavily involved in apologetics and all of that. He and I have been friends for almost 30 years, well, 30 years now. Um, so he will be on, and then Tammy Jelinek. Oh,
Yeah,
uh,
I'm excited about both of them, man.
I know, man. And I've told Raphael about Tammy. She's, I don't want to toot her horn too much because she's a really humble woman, but
No, but
she,
dude, let's do it. Like if we make her look out to be like this like fucking genius of all time, then she won't look so awesome when she comes on the show and we'll look better.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, she's all right. Got a third grade education. She'll probably mumble through some words. I don't know.
Right.
No, yeah. Tammy is brilliant. That's probably the best word. She wrote some stuff, The Language of Creation being one of them. I know you remember that paper. I still have it.
For sure.
She yeah, in the theological world, whew.
So here's something interesting. I'm jealous because both of the people we have coming on that show, you already know. I have never actually met, well, I met Raphael, but it was brief, but I have never actually met Tammy or talked to her. Is that not fascinating? We've been on the
What?
same, yeah, we've been at the same conference together, the virtual conference that we did with Beyond Creation Science. So I did a lecture, she did a lecture, but I've never actually, to my recollection, I might be wrong, but to my recollection, I've never had an interaction with her. And most likely, if you interact with Tammy, you remember. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah, so I'm beyond excited because I get to meet her for the first time. So, dude, I can't wait. This is just
Yeah, she's engaging in conversation with her is very fun because you if you're gonna come at her, you better come at her with some good logic because if you don't, it's gonna be ripped apart real quick.
for
But she's
sure.
but she's very, very, very gracious. But she is completely moved out of Christianity, and she's now where we are. So it's going to be a fun conversation, man, because we're going to get to be able to just talk about whatever,
Yeah.
and kind of cruise through the same thing we always do.
Yep, it's going to be great. And that show is going to be on February 21st. That's the night that it's going to come out. We're going to be recording it the night before, but it will be coming out on February 21st. So you got two more with Our Ugly Mugs, and then you get to see Raphael and Tammy on the 21st. So, in case you hadn't noticed, behind me, I finally got my life right side up. The trees are correct. Anyway, everybody, thanks for joining us. We will talk to you next week. See ya.
All right, take it easy.